Hello, everyone, and welcome customers, advocates, prospects, and partners. I'm Christine Strachan, the marketing coordinator here at Cumulus. We appreciate your time and we thank you for your interest in MFGX and our brown bag webinar. We want to be mindful of everyone's time, so I'm going to get things started. I'd like to introduce Mike Medwith, our Director of Development.
Thank you, Christine. Again, my name is Mike, and I started the development department at Cumulus Consulting 4 years ago. We've had a wonderful opportunity to help many of our customers go live on ERP systems and enhance their experiences with customizations and custom development. Throughout my time with the team, we've worked our butts off building a platform which made all of this possible. Before I jump into that platform, I just want to ask everybody to take a moment to follow us on LinkedIn. Again, my team and I are constantly improving and extending our platform, and we like to post things as they happen and solicit the community for feedback. Also, our next brown bag will be a continuation of MFGX and IIOT, and we will focus more on the cloud configuration and visualizations. This will happen in early February. For those of you already subscribing to the MFGX platform, please join us in our group on LinkedIn for even more access and behind-the-scenes access to our team. Some of our best ideas come from the community, and a quick thank you to some of those people in our community: Michelle Potter, Stephen Sherwood, and David Chubb. So, over the next hour, we will take a journey through what I call opening day. Whether you're a hunter or a sports fan, we can all agree that the first day of any season is a big deal. We start the day off with a high level of optimism and motivation. Our expectations are set high and we have big, big goals. Doesn't matter if we're looking for our first win or a trophy buck. In this case, I'm jumping headfirst into device automation. Today, we're going to learn about MFGx Edge. We're also going to learn about the MFGX platform. What everybody's here for, we're going to draw some free lunch winners, and we'll follow it up with a discussion where we can answer some of the questions. Please feel free to ask questions at any time in the Q&A or chat windows. We'll do our best to get those up and answered at the end of this session. As well as a little bit of house cleaning, this is being recorded, and a full version of the presentation or webinar will be available shortly afterwards. So to begin, MFGX is a subscription-based platform. Customers are given two options depending on their existing software applications. Many customers already have an MES or ERP platform, and MFGX Connect provides an excellent set of features to complement those applications. Customers looking for a full MES experience can integrate our platform directly with accounting applications like QuickBooks, Sage, and OneStream. My presentation today is focused on IIoT and Edge applications. I think it's only fitting to start off with what an Edge application actually is. Edge applications run within the firewall of your network and can monitor millions of data points and values throughout your machines and your production floor. Some of those data points can be stored locally. In fact, a lot of them can, and that reduces latency and providing a significant amount of data points in what people often refer to as big data. Millions and millions of values stored locally in your database. Other data points, or some of those data points, are evaluated by a machine running an Edge application and sent over secure connections to a larger application. The application above is running on our MFGX manufacturing platform, and an application like this is responsible for consolidating the data, increasing the accessibility to it, and relating it to other parts of your manufacturing process. MFGX supports a wide array of Edge applications and devices. In fact, this is how we started IIoT integrations. Customers often use Ignition or Kepware on our platform at this very moment. They talk to millions of tags and devices and record production in many different systems. Some smart devices actually run their own edge-based applications. The Speedway RFID reader is actually running a small web service or web server, and this service is capable of sampling thousands of RFID tags. It takes those tags and isolates all of the changes every moment and sends only those changes directly to MFGX. We currently use this hardware on multiple sites for customers to manage serializable containers, or otherwise known as package management, for suppliers of Honda, Toyota, and Fiat Chrysler. Finally, the most interesting of the bunch is our Amazon Dash button. Typically, you see one of these on a commercial with a Tide logo sticky taped to somebody's washing machine, and they run out of detergent, they push the button, and it automatically orders more of it for you. In our case, we have this button and it floats around our office. I can never seem to find it, but when whoever has it, when they click it, I get an email about cats. So with a lot of other edge applications out there, it's a fair question to ask why we created our own. By writing our own edge application, we can control the entire process. This starts from licensing all the way down to development, to distribution, to installation, and all of the support we provide. We have you covered. You can talk to any one of our team members, and we're capable of supporting any part of your process. Community and customization really go hand in hand. Our opening day experience in live training sessions, in combination with documentation on our community, provide everyone with the ability to customize their own solutions. Our community really makes this possible for MFGX employees and customers to safely and securely share templates, examples, ideas, and all of those customizations for any part of our platform, which just happens to include the industry, the IIOT area we're talking about today. Installation couldn't be easier. With packages for Windows, Mac, and Unix, simply run one to install on the platform of your choice. Just takes a couple moments. And once it's installed, we can pull it up and launch the application. So take note that when the application is launched, I end up on an empty dashboard. In order for me to edit any behavior for this particular installation, I need to first log into MFGX. By connecting this to the cloud, we can enforce all of our security policies, roles, and permissions. So the dashboards that pop up when you load can be as simple or as complex as we need them to be. This particular dashboard is part of my demonstration later. It has a button and a gauge, and they both connect to an Allen Bradley device. I was able to create this dashboard quickly using our editor. Our editor has 3 sections. On the left is a list of nodes. You can think of nodes like functions or steps in a process. I like to think of them more as like a infinite amount of puzzle pieces that all fit together with a simple line. The middle section is a flow. The flow is our canvas. This is where we put together the nodes or the puzzle pieces, and we build our puzzle. Administrators can load the flows, edit the flows, and save the flows. So once I log in, if I have enough permissions, I can get to this screen and start doing things. Saving can be done locally or on the actual MFGX platform for easier distribution. Think of it like cloud-based storage. The last section is our debug section, informational section. There's the graphical layout section over there, so we'll get into that a little bit more later. By connecting our Edge application to the platform, we get security and trackability. Editing behavior in MFGX is limited to authorized users. In this example, I saved my flow to the MFGX platform. I'm now going to accidentally delete it, deploy that deletion, and immediately re-import the save file I have from MFGX Platform Cloud. So think of MFGX Platform as the source code control for all of your applications and changes. Our task for today is to connect to an Allen Bradley device and make this screen. The gauge is going to represent the current value, and all of the buttons will change the device's value by writing back to the actual device. Those changes will be reflected on the gauge in real time, and all of these changes will also be sent to the MFGX platform, where it will be evaluated as an event and processed later. We're going to do all of that in less than 4 minutes. I split this application into 4 easy steps from 15 seconds up to 90. Yeah, I know I sound like some guy trying to sell you an air fryer in the middle of in between your cable channels, but it's really that easy. I also want to take a moment to reiterate the opening day experience. This is very, very similar to that experience. And this experience can be done on-site or remotely. In fact, this entire demonstration was created remotely using a secure VPN connection back to the office. I did this while I was working remotely in the comfort of my own home, wearing pajamas in the middle of the afternoon. Try not to judge me too much. So in the first 60 seconds, we will connect to a part counter on our Allen Bradley. We will use the value to create a gauge, and we also send that value back to our platform at the same time. So some terms, we're going to connect to a programmable logic controller, a PLC, and we're going to create a human machine interface known as an HMI. And then the values we're sending are actually going to send to our site, which is demo.mfgx.io. So this goes pretty quickly here, but the 3 things I need are an input from the PLC, an output to MFGX, and a gauge. The data flows from one dot to the next, so we simply connect the lines. And the first thing we configure is the PLC. I've already configured it with an IP address and a port number, some cycle times and timeout parameters. And then I simply pick the memory address for the part counter. I'm going to give it a friendly name, and I'm done. So that value, 0, 1, 2, 3, is going to flow through to these next 2 nodes. The first one, I'm pointing at an MFGX server. I'm giving that a friendly name. I'm defining a channel, which is our grouping of tags, and a code, or a tag code, or a tag name for the actual tag. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to move on to the gauge. It's more graphical, so I'm just going to increase the maximum range of the gauge and connect it to a visual group for display. I click the deploy button, which sets those changes out there, and then I open up my dashboard, and you can see the gauge. So now that we have a connected gauge, the next logical step is to interact with it. Obviously, I'm working remotely, and I'm not in the same network as the device, and the part counter is already linked to a limit switch that I could call somebody in the office and have them like press the limit switch a bunch of times. But I want to make it a little bit easier, so we're going to add some buttons. The first button I'm going to do is going to increase that value by 1, and then write it back to the PLC. So we're going to simulate the limit switch by making a button. To do that, I'm first going to set the current counter into memory. And to do that, I'm going to add an extra flow that takes the value 0, 1, 2, 3 and saves it to a memory address on the flow, which I called counter. By connecting the line here, it's going to just pass that 0 directly into that save counter, and it'll be ready for use by the button. So now I need a button. I need another change window to physically take the value that's in memory and add 1 to it. And then I need an output because I need to write back to that PLC. So working backwards, I'm going to pick that same PLC. I'm going to pick that same memory address. I'm going to give it a familiar name. Next, I'm going to write the logic that takes the value coming in and simply adds 1 to it. So this is the most code that we will write today, and that is taking simply the number coming in and adding 1 to it. Finally, the button starts the entire process. So the button is actually going to take the value from memory, which I called counter, and pass it along. I'm going to add that button to the same page as the gauge and start connecting the dots. Once I click deploy, those changes are available in my dashboard. And I can start clicking buttons. You can see the counter increasing. So with the add button out of the way, I want to highlight how easy it is to make changes and reuse portions of that code that we just wrote. That's a big part of our platform. That's a big part. We're going to give you something that's usable, and then everybody is going to change it and adapt it to their specific needs. So in this step, we're going to add 2 more buttons and subtract. And the first button is going to subtract 1, and then the second one's going to 0 out the gauge. And since we're in there making extra buttons, we're going to rename them. It just makes sense so that we know what we're clicking. So I'm going to start off by copying and pasting the button and the change logic. This is going to be our subtraction, and then duplicating just a button. So to start, let's change the logic for the addition to subtraction. And done. Next, this button doesn't need to use the memory. It's just going to pass a number to reset the counter. That number happens to be 0. Since we're in the button, I'll rename it. All 3 are wired up, and now we just need to rename the buttons. So we'll rename the subtraction and the addition. Once deployed, those changes are available to be used, and we're going to open up the dashboard in a new window. You can see that we can continue to add and subtract. And if we wanted to reset the value, we could do that as well. So the last part of this is just organization. It's very, very simple, and I want to highlight how easy it is to satisfy your OCD or my OCD. The GUI we made did not match the GUI on the first slide, so I'm going to move things around. I'm going to show you how to move the reset button to the bottom, see changes in progress, and then we'll move the gauge up to the top and call it a day. So for this recording, it's a little bit bigger. We're going to slide the dashboard over and switch to the dashboard layout. I'm going to move the gauge up and deploy. Easy peasy. Finally, I'm going to move the gauge up a little bit higher, deploy one last time, and see our changes. Not much else there. It gets very, very useful when you're dealing with much larger screens. So let's talk about those much larger screens. Before we step away from the Edge application and into the cloud application to talk about what we do on our platform with the data once it gets to us, I want to show off a few specific templates, right, and examples that are available in the community right now. Those examples include a directed put away application, a few flavors of our production HMI screens, which are commonly referred to as a control panel. So first up is our directed put away. This application was actually created first for a prospect because our team decided it was actually easier to set up a basic version of this in our Edge application instead of wireframing or screening out or creating like a solutions spec doc on paper. The interaction with the customer and the testing and the tweaking really worked out. We actually have a full 10-minute demonstration of this application that we just recorded last week. It's available for view on our YouTube channel, and it fully demonstrates a directed put away application running with the Plex manufacturing cloud. So I encourage you to check that out later today. So this one's a little fuzzy. There's a lot of things going on. This flow is a great example of one of our control panel templates. It's hard to see everything, but it's properly named. Everything makes sense. And in short, we start with a version. We start with this version or a version like this with every customer, and we copy and paste things from another flow that maybe they like. So this section represents different buttons. Maybe we don't want those, so we just click them, click delete. Maybe we want these in a different flow, so we highlight them, copy it, paste it. It's all very real time, very easy to configure and see. So we start with one or more of these and we merge them together to meet every customer's expectations, or customers are welcome to do this on their own. That screenshot was actually a view of the design of our standard control panel. So that you see right here. This version was actually intended for manual interaction when users need to badge in, and they also select jobs from a dispatch list and maybe manually control the work center status. Production can be completed manually with these buttons, and it can also be automatically recorded through PLC inputs with the flip of a switch. So it's on for this one. It's running job number 1. You can see that it's in work center production, and the operator speaks Latin. So we'll just put that out there because it's bulletin. So how do you customize that control panel, right? So in this example, we used the editor on the other screen and we turned off auto recording. We disabled the option to turn it on. And then we also removed the ability to control the work center status. It's still displayed over here, but it's now controlled by a different PLC input. So we've disabled that feature. So this final video, I edited it a little bit for time. It got into a lot of details. We're loading a job from a dispatch list. I sped up the production here. You can see that there's a standard pack quantity of 25. We're turning on auto recording of production, and we're going to slowly approach that number of 25. As it hits 25, the production is actually recorded into the Plex manufacturing cloud. We're given a serial number back with a ZPL label, and it's printed on the screen. So that's what we just saw there. So now that we have our little Edge application configured and running, it's time to kind of shift focus and do the next logical step. Like what happens next? Where did all the data go? Like how do we physically record production and all of those fun things that you want to do with an IoT device? This part runs on the manufacturing platform. So the MFGx platform runs on hundreds of dedicated services on AWS or Amazon Web Services in the cloud, ready to go. So processing of all of that IoT data is handled by our platform, and our platform uses flow-based programming to handle events into and out of our system. This is our flow designer on the web, and it is a great tool that is extremely close to the functionality and behavior of our MFGx Edge editor. Now, there are two major differences between this editor and the Edge editor. First, this version is more centered around data and integrations between systems. When you compare that to the Edge's goal of device connectivity and a single integration with an endpoint. So basically, MFGx Edge collects data in a flow or a design and sends it somewhere. And then this data listens for that change and then processes or acts on it. So our layer can connect to any platform with an API. You can kind of think of it as IIOT meets Flow meets Del Boomi. It's a one-stop shop for all of your IoT integrations as well as all of your B2B integrations as well. The second major difference of this version is that it runs on our AWS servers. So in this one example, when the flow is deployed on this editor, anyone updating shipments or loads in MFGx will instantly be impacted by the changes to this flow. So this layer and this flow gives the ability for any users of the MFGx platform to create, modify, or remove behavior anywhere in the MFGx platform. So our Edge application is no different than any of our other applications, our mobile, our Chrome extensions, and our custom applications. They all consume the MFGx platform. So in the MFGx Edge implementation, we're basically sending tag values directly to the platform as an IIOT publish. And in this flow, we are subscribing to that data. And we're listening for events that happen when IIoT Edge applications post tag values. So they're passing the channel, the code, and then the value. And then this flow picks up and continues on. And in this particular instance, we take the value, say brown bag production, hits 25 or 20, and we send that 20 value to two places. First, we send it to the Plex IIoT platform, and then we save the data locally in our historian as well. So this video is a great example of what we do with that data. So once that data is saved, we're going to create a flow that monitors for a tag change event. And we're going to subscribe to an Allen Bradley, and we're going to look for that production counter. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're only going to care about the values that come in that are, let's say, maybe greater than or equal to 20. So we're going to put another one line of code in here and simply document what we're doing. And again, these flows, that we're just connecting the dots, right? So the data is going to flow from one dot to the next. So is it greater than 20? If it is, we'll continue on. If not, we'll just kind of end there. The next thing we're going to do is, in this case, we're going to call a Plex data source. And we're going to use the Plex test connection in Denver. And we're going to use a data source key of a Cumulus-owned data source that records production. And we're going to pass the minimum requirements here, which is the PLC name, the quantity, which is streaming through, and the container status of OK. Finally, once we get the response from Plex, we will be publishing a message to print a label, which is another flow that we can design later that pushes that label out to whatever devices are necessary. So the value in our historian gets picked up by more than just one data flow. In fact, it can be evaluated by multiple data flows. So this is another example or a slight twist on the previous slide that allows users to record production during a maintenance window. So in this, take note of the second green decision box here, looking for success. So if the success is true, then we continue on and print a label. But if the call to Plex fails in this particular example, we use the MFGX platform for a temporary serial number. So there's a whole additional process involved here where you have to reload your work centers and re-record production to get all of your standard costing and things in place. But if you're looking for a label, the blue box will get you one. So another question of like, what next? So we're processing data, but like, what about reporting or seeing the data? So MFGX offers over 100 charts and widgets with an unlimited number of options and customizations for each one of those. Think of it like a charting or widget platform. Our user-definable data, between the user-definable data, customized layouts, and user-defined functions, we're going to give you the power you need to chart and widget anything you want. So our user-defined functions, for example, extend the MFGX scripting language, which is core to our platform. It's used everywhere. It's used in integrations. It's used in our document designer. It's used in our Chrome extension. It's used in our dynamic screens, our flows. Everything that we do extends the scripting language, which allows you to call one or more systems. You can run integrations, and you can really take advantage of whatever you need to do to create a chart or a graph. Here's some quick examples of our charting engages in our widgets. I just want to note that the full customization of this feature is actually going to be released in pieces across the entire platform, and those releases will be starting next January. So we are getting towards the end of our demonstration today. And before I ask Christine to announce the winners for free launches, I wanted to make sure that we highlight MFGX as a platform. When you're considering us for IIoT, please consider us for much more than that. We offer so much more than just device connectivity. We have a lot of integrations. We help a lot of customers connect systems together. E-commerce, websites, orders for ERP planning, tool vending machines, into supply crib data or tool usage data. We do a lot of different costing calculations with that stuff, and we do that all in your ERP. In fact, these are just a few examples on the screen of the things that we have available as templates or examples already on our platform for customers at no additional charge. So finally, I really want to hit home with the data points, the graphs, and the widgets, and what you can expect in January when we roll that out. So I wanted to share our report designer, which is very similar, and I want to display that alongside our Chrome extension, which is just super cool. So the combination of these two tools allows everyone to pull data from multiple sources at the same time and create a single pixel perfect report that is accessible anywhere. And I really do mean anywhere. So we'll start off with the report designer. It's just awesome. I mean, think if Crystal Reports and Del Boomi got together and they had a baby, it would totally be the MFGX report designer. So if you want to pull back your IIoT production data, whether it's from our historian, whether it's from the Plex, whether it's from the Plex product, whether it's from a local database, or whether maybe it's from all three of those, and then maybe you want to mix in the operator's data from like a human capital management system, like maybe their legal name or their surname, or I have no idea, something that you store in Workday or ADP that it just isn't allowed to be in your ERP system. You can pull back all of that data at the same time and display it on a report. In this particular example, we just have a shipment, and it's going to flow beautiful into the next Chrome extension slide that I have, and that's really the magic on how we deliver these reports. So this particular report is pulling back data from the Plex manufacturing cloud and arranging it in a specific pixel perfect requirement for a customer. And yeah, let's show you how to get that. So the extension runs in Chrome, and it sits on top of every website that you have access to. You turn it on, you turn it off, and you get buttons. So you add this button that says, I want an MFGX shipper on this screen, and when I click it, I want it to provide me with the document that I just designed, and I want to pass the shipper key from the URL directly into that document, call some data sources, and get my shipper. So there you go. It's truly special. You can add custom buttons to trigger screen integrations, navigation, custom reports. It's so powerful. So that really concludes our demonstration, and at this time I am going to end the recording.